They could have 3 or 4 jobs, and they will be happy. They will be happy, and happy people are more productive.
Alison Lambert, Dr Alison Lambert, welcome to Australia.
Thank you.
Hear from the attendees that I probably should have been here from the very start, that you've been extremely entertaining. What is the message you have been bringing to Australia?
Well, firstly, thank you for having me. It's day 4, so I'm just about into time zone, and it's been a brilliant 2 days so far. We've got another day tomorrow. So what we've been doing is, yesterday we looked at the customer journey and the concept that there is a customer cycle. So the 4 key stages of, if I'm a new owner, whether I'm a cat, dog, horse owner, is how do I find your practice? So how do I know you even exist? And then when I found you, what happens when I ring you? Which is an entertaining part of the customer cycle. And then when I walk into the building or I'm on yard with you, how does that go? And then when I've left the practice or the vet's left the yard, is what happens with word of mouth. So looking at testimonial management and making sure that we get key opinion leader feedback. So the customer journey is the 4 quadrants of how can I find you, what happens when I ring you, what happens when I'm in face to face with you, and what happens when I'm generating word of mouth. So that was yesterday, and I think certainly the feedback from the group was that it was just really nicely structured, and they could see what they had to do, and it was just logical, I suppose, for their scientific brains. So it was good. It was a good day.
It helps that you're a vet as well, I'm sure. A lot of people were saying, wow, this is completely different to every other kind of training or thought process. We've been doing it wrong. What have they been doing wrong?
I don't think they've been doing it wrong. I think that what's happened is we've had a parallel process taking place. If we go back 20 years, you were probably the only vet in the village. You didn't need to worry about who would come to you because there wasn't another option. It was you. It was you or nobody. And the expectation of the customer was it was very word of mouth, very local, families, generations went to the same practice. Today we've got more practices, more options, we've got more veterinary opportunities outside of traditional vet care. So we've got online, we've got pharmacy, we've got alternative. We don't need vets as much as we used to. All over the world there are other people that can help, and what's happened is we haven't evolved at the pace that the customer has evolved at. So when you look at the customer access points, we need to be more customer centered. So how do they wish to communicate with us? How do they find us? What do they want? Where are they going? What's their relationship? We now have the dog and the cat in the bed. They're not in the yard anymore. It's changed, and the message for the profession is that I'm not sure that we have changed at the same pace. So this is about catching up and then showing leadership and getting ahead of the curve. So they're not been doing it wrong, they just haven't been doing it right for today's customer. So what our vision is to the business that I started is OnSwitch, and what we have is a business vision, which is OnSwitch exists to create customer-centered practice so that pets and horses ultimately are receiving better care. So when the phone rings, we see them. When they're in the consult room, we do good medicine. And when they first touch our web or social space, we get back to them. So first call resolution, first consult resolution, and first contact resolution, because that's the speed of the whole thing now. And that's what yesterday was all about, was customer centricity rather than practice centricity.
Certainly a lot of people have been saying the telephone suddenly has a lot more impact and importance in their minds. Why is that?
Do you know what? I think when you look back over the veterinary mindset, when we look back to the primeval sludge of the veterinary profession back in the 1800s, and we grew out of an agricultural economy, and the horse was king, and then we got tractors, and then it was farm-based, and then we took the dog in the home, and then the cat came in the home. We've evolved to be, very much care-centred, and that we've evolved, but some of our thinking necessarily hasn't, and we're still quite traditional in our way of thinking. And the fact that people ring us and want to be treated with a customer service focus or with a pet's family or horse's family approach, we've never had to answer the phone. So we've only ever done clinical stuff. So as doctors, we haven't got to that point where, why does the phone matter? Because I've never had to worry about it. And now we've just highlighted it and put the spotlight on it and said it does matter. It's the point of first contact, and they need to get it better.
Simple tips for those that are listening that weren't able to come to this particular conference?
Really, the key thing for me was, if you weren't here, which is, not everybody was, so the key things would be that to take a really good stand back from your practice and look at a customer journey, create your own customer journey, is how do people find you, what do you do an audit of your web, your social media, and then look at the phone and measure how many calls are presented to your practice, so how many inbound calls come in, how many of those end up being engaged, answered, how many end up as appointments, and what is your team training strategy, and what is it that your team are expecting to do with those calls, and then look at the face-to-face experience, and then start looking really at word of mouth and testimonial management. And this 4 section, the slides from today are going to be available through the AVAPM anyway, so the guys, I presume, can get into those slides and just work your way through, but create a customer journey map. That would be my first start point. The phone is critical, but seeing the phone as part of the bigger picture is probably more important. As a primary contact point, it has to be first call resolution. They ring, you see them.
And in between, the person who's answering the phone has to actually do a little bit of work once they've been persuaded that that's a good thing.
Yeah, this is about the train, measure, manage. And the session we've just done today is looking at how you implement the process of managing the people and the process. And we've just come up with, actually, if we had a great process, the team can be everyday people. They don't have to be superstars. And as a profession, we want superstars in every aspect of the building, a superstar in the consult room, a superstar at the front desk, a superstar manager. But actually, if we had good processes, we could cope with everyday people. So what we've just said is I'd rather you have a good process that's robust and consistent than always trying to find that, the perfect person. Because having one person who glues the business together is going to burn them out, and then they're on holidays or high days or sick, the whole business implodes. Is get your process first and then get your people trained. So train your people, measure your people, but manage them. And the first step of managing is get the process. That was the sessions today. So the people do have to do something different, but the managers have to start managing. And for that, the business owners need to start letting them manage.
You're also doing a masterclass, so can you give us a hint about the extras?
Yeah, the masterclass tomorrow is going to be really cool. There are 3 topic areas. The first one, all around different types of practices. So the first session is around the startup practice, and we're going to use a case study of a practice that isn't yet open. It opens the end of this month. So the journey to where these guys have got to, from their first idea, their spark, getting the business to building, looking at their competitive environment, through to design, marketing, branding and communication. So this is a real live, it's happening now. This is a case study of a practice that will open by the end of January, and we'll be able to show it by the end of July. We're in January, it's jet lag. End of January, July, end of July. So this is a real live one, and very now. The second one is looking at a steady state practice, a mature practice, a practice that is doing fine but needs to refresh, maybe become a little bit complacent in places. So again, a real practice, showing exactly what their challenge was, where they went, what they did, what happened. And then looking at a practice that's got challenges, so new competitor, new kid on the block, looking at what do you do when that happens. Because what do you do? Because you've got to fight. But the best thing is to see it coming. Don't be surprised, look outward, see beyond the horizon and go, we're doing okay now, but if I was a competitor, I would open here and my weak point is this. So we're looking at brand new practice, steady state practice, and a practice that's got challenges. But real practices, it just lots of really interesting stuff from people who have been through it and are currently going through it.
I love it that you've already done some market research on the phone skills of Aussie practices. In a nutshell, how did we fare?
Not great. Classic. We called 127 practices through March, April, May and June in Adelaide, Brisbane, Canberra, Perth, Sydney, Melbourne. Yeah, so 6 big centres. Calls were made by Australians in Australia, and they called in with various scenarios from, puppy vaccines, kitten vaccines, those kind of everyday phone calls. And out of all of those calls over all of those months, we were offered appointments, only 20% at the time. So 1 in 5 of the practices said, come in, when the inquiry was how much. Now that means 4 out of 5 didn't. So you're converting your inbound calls at the rate of an average scenario. So you're way behind the UK. You're as good as Finland, and you're way behind Holland. We do this a lot across Europe. So, in a few weeks of where the English have done rather well against the Aussies, we also beat you on the mystery shopping. So, you don't want to bring that one up, but there's work to do. There's definitely work to do.
Dr. Alison, thank you very much for joining us on Vet Talk.
Thank you, it's been a pleasure.